awesome. Indeed, it is. And where we talk about good stories, good literature. Well, we're going to talk about maybe one of the greatest books ever written, and it is Wuthering Heights, rather reviewing it and going through it. And for no reason whatsoever, I decided to do this. Could it be because there is a book coming out, which is absolutely, rather a movie, which is absolutely ridiculous? Absolutely, positively ridiculous. We all knew it was gonna be ridiculous when they called it the greatest love story of all time. We also knew it was gonna be ridiculous when they, said they were gonna release it on Valentine's Day. Then, of course, we saw the trailer, and you wanna talk about 100,000,000% ridiculous. Because I think modern day Hollywood, they are incapable of understanding human nature. This book is violent. I mean, it's the very definition of psychological violence, generational trauma, and a happy ending, how this gets redeemed. Not surprisingly, this movie version leaves out entirely the second half of the book, which has that aspect. But, like I said, they can't understand it. And in many ways, they can't understand it. I think that they don't get it is because I'm just going to throw this out here. They're not Christian. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be a Christian to enjoy great literature. But maybe let me put it to you this way, they're antithetical to Christianity. They hate Christianity so much that they don't want to look at the work as it is. A very, very good example is Peter Jackson, a positive example. When he was on the Catholic channel being interviewed about The Lord of the Rings, he said he didn't go out to adapt it, quote unquote, as a Catholicism, this, Catholicism, that. He says not a Catholic and obviously not, a part of his worldview. But he was adapting Tolkien's work as Tolkien presented his work, and thematically, he wanted to be true to that. Fast forward, 20 years or whatever, and look what they did with Rings of Power. So I would argue that. That's what I'm saying is, so I'm not necessarily knocking people that necessarily aren't Christian, but if they don't get it, and if they don't look at it from the author's point of view, from the work that is presented, they won't get it. Another bad example that we're seeing is the new Narnia. I might do a whole different stream about it where they are talking about Narnia, which is literally, I mean, it is an allegory for Christianity, for Jesus, for the passion and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And they're like, we're making it our own. And it's like, oh dear. Again, not understanding the work. My attitude is if you're not going to adapt the work and at least be true to what the author is adapting, then you're just not. Don't adapt it. Make your own work. Now, I would feel the same way if, say, an atheistic work. I believe that's his Dark Materials, definitely antithetical to quote unquote organized religion. If they did an adaptation that made it super Christian, that would be ridiculous for the same way. And the reason is because I want to get into what Charlotte Bronte, however you say it. I know it's a French name, but they were British. What she said about her sister. So, well, just let me throw this out here. This is what she says in her preface to the 1850 edition. That was after she passed away, Emily Bronte. She died very young. I mean, the fact that, my gosh, the fact that she was the age that she was when she died, that she wrote this work at her age. So here we go. I have just read over Wuthering Heights, and for the first time obtained a clear glimpse of what are termed, and perhaps really are, its faults, having gained a definite notion of how it appears to other people. To strangers who knew nothing of the author, who are unacquainted with the locality where the scenes of the story are laid, to whom the inhabitants, the customs, the natural characteristics of the outlying hills and hamlets in the West Riding of Yorkshire are things alien and unfamiliar. To all such, Wuthering Heights must appear a rude and strange production. The wild moors of the north of England can for them have no interest. The language, the manners, the very dwelling and household customs of the scattered inhabitants of those districts must be to such readers in a great measure unintelligible and, where intelligible, repulsive. Men and women who, perhaps naturally very calm and with feelings moderate in degree and little marked in kind, have been trained from their cradle to observe the utmost evenness of manner and guardedness of language, will hardly know what to make of the rough, strong utterance, the harshly manifested passions, the unbridled aversions, and headlong partialities of unlettered moorland hens and rugged moorland squires, who have grown up untaught and unchecked, except by mentors as harsh as themselves. Damn. Seeing what this is about? Seeing what this is about. A large class of readers, likewise, will suffer greatly from the introduction into the pages of this work of words printed with all their letters, which it has become the custom to represent by the initial and final letter only. Yeah, especially when it's a bad word. A blank line filling the interval. I may as well say at once that for this circumstance, it is out of my power to apologize, deeming it myself a rational plan to write words at full length. The practice of hinting by single letters those expletives with which profane and violent people are wont to garnish their discourse strikes me as a proceeding which, however well meant, is weak and futile. I cannot tell what good it does, what feeling it spares, what horror it conceals. Now, the profane words in this, we might think, that's not so bad. Oh, but back then it was, especially for a woman to write like this. And you might be saying, well, like a Christian woman and all this. So she has to defend her sister's work and her sister in many ways. With regard to the rusticity of Wuthering Heights, I admit the charge, for I feel the quality. It is rustic all through. It is Moorish and wild and naughty at the root of health. Nor was it natural that it should be otherwise, the author feeling herself a native and nursling of the moors. Doubtless, had her lot been cast in a town, her writings, if she had written at all, would have possessed another character. Even had chance her taste led her to choose a similar subject, she would have treated it otherwise. Had Ellis Bell, that was a pseudonym that she had for the work when it was published. They did not use their real names for a while. Well, never in Emily Bronte's life. Had Ellis Bell been a lady or a gentleman accustomed to what is called the world, her view of a remote and unreclaimed region, as well as of the dwellers therein, would have differed greatly from that actually taken by the homebred country girl. Doubtless it would have been wider, more comprehensive. Whether it would have been more original or more truthful is not so certain. As far as the scenery and locality are concerned, it could scarcely have been so sympathetic. Ellis Bell did not describe as one whose eyes and taste alone found pleasure in the prospect. Her native hills were far more to her than a spectacle. They were what she lived in and by, as much as the wild birds their tenants or as the heather their produce. Her descriptions, then, of natural scenery are what they should be, and all they should be. I want to point this out, too. Modern day people can only look at someone like Emily Bronte or even Wuthering Heights and think sex. She must have had sex somewhere. There was a horrible fictional version of her life, which sadly most people probably won't figure out as fictional, that does that. They can understand what's really behind it, and I think this is so funny. She's writing this in 1850. She could be writing this to us today. Of course, with for different reasons, people were not getting Wuthering Heights in many ways, but there were people that found it genius, the genius that it truly is. She's gonna talk about this. Salty Traveling Sea says, "Let the rage flow through you. Hollywood is absolutely, totally, and complete garbage." Now, I guess I could say shit because Emily Bronte was not afraid of cursing. As I've said earlier, we would think, well, that's not too bad. But back then, oh, yeah, especially for a lady. But she wrote what she knew, she wrote what she saw, and she wanted it to be completely authentic. Where delineation of human character is concerned, the case is different. I am bound to avow that she had scarcely more practical knowledge of the peasantry amongst whom she lived than a nun has of the country people who sometimes pass her convent gates. My sister's disposition was not naturally gregarious. Circumstances favored and fostered her tendency to seclusion. Except to go to church or take a walk on the hills, she rarely crossed the threshold of home. Though her feeling for the people round was benevolent, intercourse with them she never sought, nor, with very few exceptions, ever experienced. I think I'm relating a lot to Emily Bronte. The fancy people say excrement. Indeed. Excrement. Well, if you've never read Wuthering Heights, you're going to see she went all out with some of this stuff. And yet she knew them, knew their ways, their language, their family histories. She could hear of them with interest and talk of them with detail, minute, graphic, and accurate. But with them she rarely exchanged a word. Hence, it ensued that what her mind had gathered of the real concerning them was too exclusively confined to those tragic and terrible traits of which, in listening to the secret annals of every rude vicinage, the memory is sometimes compelled to receive the impress. Her imagination, which was a spirit more somber than sunny, more powerful than sportive, bound in such traits material whence wrought creations like Heathcliff, like Earnshaw, like Catherine. Having formed these beings, she did not know what she had done. How incredibly cool. I love it. I love creativity. I love what she did. I've not seen, obviously, the movie, nor will I. I have heard, though, that it opens in such a way that is so base, and so despicable. I just want to vomit when I hear about it. It'll be interesting if it got cut, because I think that there were a lot of people in the pre-screenings that were like, "This is wrong," like, with the test audiences. If for no other reason, I don't wanna even describe it, it's so vile, but it included something with a nun. Now, there weren't nuns back then. Why? Catholic emancipation does not happen until 1829. This book is set in the 18th century. So, they didn't even get that wrong, but they're just so vile. They have to just imagine symbols of holiness to make it base and despicable and perverse. It's demonic. It is Phil. Praise for you with metal. Hello. Salty Traveling Sea says, reread Wuthering Heights when I was in high school in the late 80s. Never once did my teacher or anyone see it as some hot, sexy work of literature. No, because it is not. Now, I will admit, when I read it as a teenager, I read it when I was 13. I didn't get it. I was surface level reading it and like, oh, 7, all that. But this is weird. And I didn't get the ending. I didn't get any of it. But I still loved it. That's weird. I know. And then there was that song, the Cliff, it's me, Kathy, I've come home. I'm so cold. Let me in your window. That song was great. But I got it later when I read it. It's like, oh, damn. I still loved it, though, as a 13-year-old. So I knew something was there, but just my brain wasn't able to comprehend it. Yeah, it is not love. And if you're seeing it on Valentine's Day as a love story, there's something wrong with you. Unless maybe you're really truly celebrating Valentine's Day. I probably will do that on my other channel on Catholic Explaining, because it's very different when you look at St. Valentine, who he was and why he died. All right. Where did I go? Oh, she did not know what she had done. If the auditor of her work, when read in manuscript, shuddered under the grinding influence of nature so relentless and implacable, a spirit so lost and fallen, if it was complained that the mere hearing of certain vivid and fearful scenes banished sleep by night and disturbed mental peace by day, Ellis Bell would wonder what was meant, and suspect the complainant of affectation. Had she but lived, her mind would of itself have grown like a strong tree, loftier, straighter, wider spreading, and its matured fruits would have attained a mellower ripeness and sunnier bloom. But on that mind time and experience alone could work. To the influence of other intellects, it was not amenable. Yeah, she wouldn't have gotten it. Again, as Charlotte's saying. It's like, yeah, like, what are y'all talking about? This was her world. This is what she knew. Having avowed that over much of Wuthering Heights there broods a horror of great darkness, that in its storm-heated and electrical atmosphere we seem at times to breathe lightning. Let me point to those spots where clouded daylight and the eclipsed sun still attest their existence. The sun is still there. For a specimen of true benevolence and homely fidelity, look at the character of Nellie Dean. For an example of constancy and tenderness, remark that of Edgar Linton. Some people will think these qualities do not shine so well incarnate in a man as they do in a woman, but Ellis Bell could never be brought to comprehend this notion. Nothing moved her more than any insinuation that the faithfulness and clemency, the long-suffering and loving kindness which are esteemed virtues in the daughters of Eve become foibles in the sons of Adam. These ladies could write, even when doing an introduction. She held that mercy and forgiveness are the divinest attributes of the great being who made both man and woman, and that what clothes the Godhead in glory, that the divinest attributes of the great being who made both man and woman, and that what clothes the Godhead in glory can disgrace no form of feeble humanity. I bet you $1 million that those beautiful parts, the sun shining through, is not manifest in the movie. I've heard that they do some really weird stuff with Edgar Linton. I also like and affirm and scream from the rooftops that, yes, this whole idea that, well, women are expected to be virtuous, but men are allowed to be bad, somehow making a return with some of the weird tradies. It's like, no, 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 no. That's not tradition. That's not good. That's not Christianity even. Right. And that the daughters of Eve and the sons of Adam all have the light inside of them. There is a dry I can't, these ladies with their big words. I try. Saturnine humor in the delineation of old Joseph, and some glimpses of grace and gaiety animate the younger Catherine. Nor is even the first heroine of the name destitute of a certain strange beauty in her fierceness, or of honesty in the midst of perverted passion and passionate perversity. Heathcliff, indeed, stands unredeemed, never once swearing in his arrow straight course to perdition. Rather, never once swerving in his arrow straight course to perdition. Yeah, he's damned. From the time when the little black-haired swarthy thing as dark as if it came from the devil was first unrolled out of the bundle and set on its feet in the farmhouse kitchen, to the hour when Nellie Dean found the grim, stalwart corpse laid on its back in the panel-enclosed bed, with wide-gazing eyes that seemed to sneer at her attempt to close them, and parted lips, and sharp, white teeth that sneered too. Yes. Gosh, I'm sorry I messed up that line because my gosh. Whew. Heathcliff indeed stands unredeemed, never once swerving in his arrow-straight course to perdition. Never, gosh, did I get it wrong again? Never once swerving. Road to perdition, course to perdition. Never once. Heathcliff betrays one solitary human feeling, and that is not his love for Catherine, which is a sentiment fierce and inhuman. Yeah, it's not love. A passion such as might boil and glow in the bad essence of some evil genius, a fire that might form the tormented center, the ever-suffering soul of a magnet of the infernal world, and by its quenchless and ceaseless ravage effect the execution of the decree which dooms him to carry hell with him wherever he wanders. No, the single link that connects Heathcliff with humanity is his rudely confessed regard for Hareton Earnshaw, the young man whom he has ruined, and then his half-implied esteem for Nellie Dean. These solitary traits omitted, we should say he was a child neither of Lascard or gypsy, but a man's shape animated by demon life, a ghoul and a freak. Yeah. The whole thing with Hareton. So if you don't have Hareton, if you don't have Kathy number 2, it doesn't work. She's a little too kind to Catherine. I think Catherine is one of the damned as well. Catherine's horrendous. I think, though, she's talking about when she was young. But my gosh. Whether it is right or advisable to create things like Heathcliff, I do not know. I scarcely think it is. But this I know. The writer who possesses the creative gift owns something of which he is not always master, something that at times strangely wills and works for itself. And any good writer will tell you that. It's like another hand is moving the pen. That sometimes characters go where you don't want them to go, but you have to let them. I've experienced this in essay writing, believe it or not. It's not fiction, but sometimes like a sentence will come out and you're like, dang, where'd that come from? I'm not talking about automatic writing here. He may lay down rules and devise principles, and to rules and principles it will perhaps for years lie in subjection, and then happily, without any warning of revolt, there comes a time when it will no longer consent to harrow the valleys or, let me turn the page, be bound with a band in the furrow, when it laughs at the multitude of the city and regards not the crying of the driver, when refusing absolutely to make ropes out of sea sand any longer, it sets to work on statue hewing, and you have a Pluto or a Jove, a Tisiphone, I probably mixed that up, or a Psyche, a mermaid, or a Madonna. Oof. As fate or inspiration direct. Be the work grim or glorious, dread or divine, you have little choice left but quiescent adoption. Don't hate me for mispronouncing that. As for you, the nominal artist, your share in it has been to work passively under dictates you neither delivered nor could question, that would not be uttered at your prayer, nor suppressed, nor changed at your caprice. If the result be attractive, the world will praise you, who little deserve praise. If it be repulsive, the same world will blame you, who almost as little deserve blame. Wuthering Heights was hewn in a wild workshop with simple tools out of homely materials. The statuary found in granite block on a solitary moor. Gazing thereon, he saw how from the crag might be elicited the head, savage, swart, sinister, a form molded in at least one element of grandeur, power. He wrought with a rude chisel, and from no model but the vision of his meditations. With time and labor, the crag took human shape, and there it stands colossal, dark, and frowning, half statue, half rock. In the former sense, terrible and goblin like, in the latter, almost beautiful, for its coloring is of mellow gray, and moorland moss clothes it, and heath, with its blooming bells and balmy fragrance, grows faithfully close to the giant's foot. Oof, well done, Charlotte Bronte. My gosh, woman. Let me see. She also says some things about Emily's character. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah. All right, we're going to read a few of those. Hello, Norporial. Hello, good sir. We're going through the real Wuthering Heights, and I just am in awe of the introduction Charlotte Bronte wrote, her sister. Whew. When talking about Wuthering Heights, Charlotte says, critics failed to do them justice. The immature but very real powers revealed in Wuthering Heights were scarcely recognized. Its import and nature were misunderstood. Speaking of which, yeah, like today, look at what they're misunderstanding with this ridiculous movie. Now, they keep saying things like, well, we're making this our own. Well, then make your own weird story on the moors. The only hope I get out of this is the people might see the movie and go, I want to read the book, and then enjoy the book. Norporial says, I wonder if the Hitchcock Rebecca is related to this. I am curious if that novel was derived from this one. Interesting. I will confess, been a very long time since I have seen Rebecca. Maybe I need to rewatch it. Definitely loads of things were inspired. It's the same way that almost every mystery of modern times is inspired by Sherlock Holmes, G.K. Chesterton, and Agatha Christie. Definitely Agatha Christie. It's the same way with these works. I mean, look what Jane Austen and the Bronte sisters, what they inspired. You want to go into a really dark place where you're just like, whoa. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte, the sister. Let me see. I'm going to skip here. Okay, she talks about one general exception to criticism. One writer endowed with the keen vision and fine sympathies of genius has discerned the real nature of Wuthering Heights and has, with equal accuracy, noted its beauties and touched on its faults. Too often do reviewers remind us of the mob of astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers gathered before the writing on the wall and unable to read the characters or make known the interpretation. We have a right to rejoice when a true seer comes at last, some man in whom is an excellent spirit, to whom have been given light, wisdom, and understanding, who can accurately read, and she says all this stuff here. Yet even the writer to whom I allude shares the mistakes about the authorship. Okay, she goes into those details, and then she goes into the Tenant of Wildfell Hall. See, Norporial says, Emily versus Charlotte, go. Yeah. Well, they all were hewn from the same cloth. And they all had the boldness to write what they knew and what they saw. She talks about her daughter, rather Emily's death. And as she is dying, it says, while physically she perished, mentally she grew stronger than we had yet known her. Day by day, when I saw with what affront she met suffering, I looked on her with an anguish of wonder and love. I have seen nothing like it, but indeed I have never seen her parallel in anything. Stronger than a man, Simpler than a child, her nature stood alone. The awful point was that, while full of ruth for others, on herself she had no pity. The spirit was inexorable to the flesh. From the trembling hand, the unnerved limbs, the eyes faded. The same service was exacted as they had rendered in health. To stand by and witness this and not dare to remonstrate was a pain no words can render. 2 cruel months of hope and fear passed painfully by, and the day came at last when the terrors and pains of death were to be undergone by this treasure, which had grown dearer and dearer to our hearts as it wasted before our eyes. Toward the decline of that day, we had nothing left of Emily but her mortal remains as consumption left them. She died December 19th, 1848. She talks also about the death of her sister. In externals, they, talking about Anne and Emily, were 2 unobtrusive women. A perfectly secluded life gave them retiring manners and habits. In Emily's nature, the extremes of vigor and simplicity seemed to meet. Under an unsophisticated culture, inartificial tastes, and from an unpretending outside lay a secret power and fire that might have informed the brain and kindled the veins of a hero. But she had no worldly wisdom. Her powers were unadapted to the practical business of life. She would fail to defend her most manifest rights, to consult her most legitimate advantage. An interpreter ought always to have stood between her and the world. Her will was not very flexible, and it generally opposed her interests. Her temper was magnanimous, her warm and sudden, her spirit altogether unbending. Neither Emily nor Anne was learned. They had no thoughts of filling their pitchers at the wellspring of other minds. They always wrote from the impulse of nature, the dictates of intuition, and from such stores of observation as their limited experience had enabled them to amass. I may sum up all by saying that for strangers they were nothing, for superficial observers less than nothing, but for those who had known them all their lives in the intimacy of close friendship, they were genuinely good and truly great. Oof. Yeah, it's difficult to compare the 2 of them in their works. They did argue with each other. They did have some strife. I mean, as sisters will and siblings will, and they had, horrible things happen to them. Like they were at this awful school that's described in Jane Eyre, which basically killed their 2 older sisters. Their mother died. Their mother died very soon, I think, after the 6th child, after Anne was born. Their brother was a loser, an alcoholic, a degenerate, got with other kinds of, I believe, opiates and things, and dang it, I was waxing poetic. I hope I wasn't gone too long. I was talking about the awful, awful childhood that they had, how much death they knew, and everyone knew. They experienced abuse at a boarding school. Death was always around the corner. I still have everyone here with me, so I assume I wasn't gone too long. Man, all this before I even start the book. All right, well, let's go at chapter 1. 1801. I have just returned from a visit to my landlord, the solitary neighbor that I shall be troubled with. Already we have solitary, he's troubled with. This is certainly a beautiful country. In all England, I do not believe that I could have fixed on a situation so completely removed from the stir of society. Now, this I is the guy who's going to be learning the story, Mr. Lockwood. A perfect misanthropist heaven. Interesting. We got heaven here. And Mr. Heathcliff and I are such a suitable pair to divide the desolation between us. Little he knows. A capital fellow. Little he knows. He little imagined how my heart warmed towards him when I beheld his black eyes withdraw so suspiciously under their brows as I rode up, and when his fingers sheltered themselves with a jealous resolution still further in his waistcoat as I announced my name. Mr. Heathcliff, I said. A nod was the answer. Mr. Lockwood, your new tenant, sir. I do myself the honor of calling as soon as possible after my arrival to express the hope that I have not inconvenienced you by my perseverance in soliciting the occupation of Thrushcross Grange. I heard yesterday that you had some thoughts. Thrushcross Grange is my own, sir, he interrupted, wincing. I should not allow anyone to inconvenience me if I could hinder it. Walk in. Again, little he knows. We already got one description of Heathcliff. He has black eyes. The walk-in was uttered with closed teeth and expressed the sentiment, go to the deuce. That's an example of the bad words that are in this book. Even the gate over which he leant manifested no sympathizing movement to the word. So we've got a gate out in front of this. And I think that circumstances determined me to accept the invitation. I felt interested in a man. He seemed more exaggeratedly reserved than myself. Yeah, he's going to learn. When he saw my horse's breast fairly pushing the barrier, a lot of imagery, barriers, gates, and stuff here. He pulled out his hand to unchain it. It's chained. And sullenly proceeded up the causeway, calling as we entered the court. Yeah, it's like a prison, this Wuthering Heights. Joseph, take Mr. Lockwood's horse and bring up some wine. Here we have the whole establishment of domestics, I suppose, was the reflection suggested by the compound order. No wonder the grass grows up between the flags and cattle are the only hedge cutters. Here we are seeing all of this here, where we've got barriers, grass growing up between the flags, very country. Oh, there is a super chat from Nordporial. It is for $5. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate it and appreciate you. Everyone subscribe to him. And you, sir, get a rose. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Joseph was an elderly, nay, an old man, very old perhaps, though hay and sinewy. The Lord help us, he soliloquized in an undertone of peevish displeasure, while relieving me of my horse, looking in my face so sourly that I charitably conjectured he must have need of divine aid to digest his dinner, and his pious ejaculation had no reference to my unexpected advent. I would just turn around and go home at this point, but he doesn't. Wuthering Heights is the name of Mr. Heathcliff's dwelling. Wuthering Heights being a significant provincial adjective, descriptive of the atmospheric tumult to which its station is exposed in stormy weather. Yeah, it's a provincial adjective. Atmospheric tumult, exposed in stormy weathers. Pure, bracing ventilation they must have up there at all times. Indeed, one may guess the power of the north wind blowing over the edge by the excessive slant of a few stunted firs at the end of the house, and by a range of gaunt thorns all stretching their limbs one way, as if craving alms of the sun. Happily, the architect had foresight to build it strong. The narrow windows are deeply set in the wall, and the corners defended with large jutting stones. Yeah, it sit there. It's the winds rage and all of that against it, but it is made of rock. Now, a lot of people say Wuthering Heights by accident, but I was guilty of it for a while when I was a kid. But wuthering actually has a meaning. It's not just a weird word, but let's see what I'm going to put up wuthering. Let's see. Though, yeah, because you can't really call it withering because it stands as stone. What? I put up some things and it said whether is Wuthering Heights LGBT. Of course, somebody had to ask. Someone had to. Now, if you've ever been in a gale or something in that kind of weather or in that kind of a place, I have personally have never been to these moors, but I have been, of course, in Ireland and seen the way the cold. Um, and yeah, it's very cold, unforgiving, and it is also haunting. Like, I don't believe in ghosts until I'm in Ireland, I'll just tell you that. Every time I go back there, I believe in ghosts. Wuthering is an antiquated term meaning to blow with a dull, roaring sound. That's what wuthering means. We have a comment here, see Nordporial. He says, I know this has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but I found an interesting sci-fi novel featuring a Catholic monastery, The Canticle of Leibowitz. Oh, well, I will definitely make a note of that and see what's going on. You know, I love that kind of stuff. Love it, love it, love it. Before passing the threshold, I paused to admire a quantity of grotesque carving. So you got grotesque. So it's strong, it's stern, made of stone, but it also is got like grotesque things, especially about the principal door, above which, among a wilderness of crumbling griffins and shameless little boys, I detected the date 1500. So that's when it was made, and the name Hareton Earnshaw. I would have made a few comments and requested a short history of the place from the surly owner, but his attitude at the door appeared to demand my speedy entrance or complete departure. I had no desire to aggravate his impatience. See, you know what? When you put things over the door, that can make a lot of symbolism. Like I'm thinking of the Passover. You know, you put the blood of the lamb on there so death will pass you over. A lot of people have crucifixes or symbols like that, or lots of other things about passing through the door. This is what you see when you pass through the door of Wuthering Heights. Let me see. Oh yeah, Hareton Earnshaw. I think it was the name of the person that founded it, and that means that is where we get the name from later when we see Hareton. One step brought us into the family sitting room. So you're thinking, hey, family sitting room, happy place, without any introductory lobbying or passage. They call it here the house preeminently. Yeah. So the place where basically people live. It includes kitchen and parlor generally, but I believe at Wuthering Heights, the kitchen is forced to retreat altogether into another quarter. At least I distinguish a chatter of tongues and a clatter of culinary utensils deep within. And I observe no signs of roasting boiler or baking about the huge fireplace, nor any glitter of copper saucepans and tin calendars on the wall. So the place that's usually like the homey place is not as homey. One end, indeed, reflected splendidly both light and heat from ranks of immense pewter dishes, interspersed with silver jugs and tankards, towering row after row in a vast oak dresser to the very roof. Its entire anatomy laid bare to the inquiring eye. Laid bare to the inquiring eye. Except where a frame of wood laden with oat cakes, and clusters of legs of beef, mutton, and ham concealed it. Above the chimney were sundry villainous, the word villainous, old guns, and a couple of horse pistols, and by way of ornament, 3 gaudily painted canisters disposed along its ledge. The floor was of smooth white stone, the chairs high-backed, primitive structures, painted green. 1 or 2 heavy black ones lurking in the shade. In an arch under the dresser reposed a huge liver-covered bitch pointer, surrounded by a swarm of squealing puppies, and other dogs haunted other recesses. Now, usually puppies, doggy, but this is very ominous, and dogs are haunting other recesses. We got loads of dogs and we got puppies. The apartment and furniture would have been nothing extraordinary as belonging to a homely northern farmer with a stubborn countenance and star limbs set out to advantage in knee breeches and gaiters. Such an individual seated in his armchair, his mug of ale frothing on the round table before him, is to be seen in any circuit of 5 or 6 miles among these hills. Yeah. So even if they are kind of gentry-ish, they're very rustic. But Mr. Heathcliff forms a singular contrast to his abode and style of living. He is a dark-skinned gypsy in aspect, in dress and manners a gentleman. That is, as much a gentleman as many a country squire. Rather slovenly, perhaps, yet not looking amiss with his negligence, because he has an erect and handsome figure and rather morose. Possibly some people might suspect him of a degree of underbred pride. Want to point out here, this is his physical appearance, dark-skinned gypsy in aspect. So, isn't it interesting when Hollywood ever has a chance to truly represent, they choose not to. And he thinks that he has a sympathy with him because he's like, yeah, I know that obviously he doesn't want showy displays of feeling and all of that. Again, Mr. Lockwood is misunderstanding that he has a connection to Heathcliff. He even points out, I bestow my own attributes over liberally on him. Mr. Heathcliff may have entirely dissimilar reasons for keeping his hand out of the way when he meets a would-be acquaintance. Oh yeah, because he didn't shake his hand. Let me hope my constitution is almost peculiar. My dear mother used to say I should never have a comfortable home, and only last summer I proved myself perfectly unworthy of one. So we're thinking, dang, we got ourselves a dark story here. Or do we? While enjoying a month of fine weather at the seacoast, I was thrown into the company of a most fascinating creature, a real goddess in my eyes, as long as she took no notice of me. I never told my love vocally. Still, if looks have language, the merest idiot might have guessed I was head over ears. She understood me at last, and looked to return. The sweetest of all imaginable looks. And what did I do? I confess it with shame. Shrunk icily into myself, like a snail at every glance retired colder and farther, until finally the poor innocent was led to doubt her own senses, and overwhelmed with confusion at her own supposed mistake, persuaded her mamma to decamp. So that's his big, dark, deep, horrendous story. Little he knows, that ain't nothing. You get a guy who's obviously socially awkward and freaked out when she finally looked back at him that he didn't know what to do, and then she felt embarrassed, and then they took off. So, and because of this, He gained the reputation of deliberate heartlessness. Yeah, people thought, what a jerk. How undeserved. I alone can appreciate. Yeah, dude just had issues with socialization. I took a seat at the end of the hearthstone, opposite that towards which my landlord advanced, and filled up an interval of silence by attempting to caress the canine mother who had left her nursery and was sneaking wolfishly to the back of my legs. Yeah, again, not a cute little doggy. Animal like, wolfishly. And the demonic and things are often symbolized through these kind of animals. Her lip curled up, her white teeth watering for a snatch. My caress provoked a long, guttural gnarl. You better let the dog alone, growled Heathcliff. Notice he also is growling like an animal. And then, calling John Wick, he kicked the doggy. She's not accustomed to be spoiled, not kept for a pet. And striding to a side door, he shouted again, Joseph! Joseph mumbled indistinctly in the depths of the cellar, but gave no intimation of ascending. So his master dived down to him, leaving him alone with the dog and a pair of grim, shaggy sheepdogs. Again, not happy dogs, who shared with her a jealous guardianship over all of my movements. Not anxious to come in contact with their fangs, I sat still, but imagining they would scarcely understand tacit insults, I unfortunately indulged in winking and making faces at the trio. What an idiot. And the dog totally lost it and broke into a fury and leapt on my knees. I flung her back and hastened to interpose a table between us. This proceeding roused the whole hive. Half a dozen four-footed fiends of various sizes and ages issued from hidden dens to the common center. So like a feeding frenzy thing is happening. Again, just this wildness. I felt my heels and coat laps peculiar subjects of assault, and parrying off the larger combatants as effectually as I could with the poker. I was constrained to demand aloud assistance from some of the household in reestablishing peace. Yeah, leave the dogs alone, you idiot. It is Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective. Hello, hello. Thank you for being here. I hope all is well. Or I guess in this world, relatively well. Let me see. Happily, an inhabitant of the kitchen made more dispatch. Oh, I see. I skipped a paragraph. That Heathcliff and his man, they come up, but they're coming like all slowly. And the hearth was an absolute tempest of worrying and yelping. So in comes a lusty dame with tucked up gown, bare arms, and fire-flushed cheeks. She rushed into the midst of us, flourishing a frying pan, and used that weapon in her tongue to such purpose that the storm subsided magically, and she only remained heaving like a sea after a high wind. Mm-hmm. As well as I can be as I recover. Yes, yeah. Sorry to hear it, and like hope it continues well, and hang in there. You're definitely in our thoughts and prayers. Whew. What the devil is the matter? Heathcliff says that. And again, devil, I would be like, oh my gosh, a woman swearing. What the devil indeed, I muttered. The herd of possessed swine could have had no more spirits in them than those animals of yours. Yeah, from the Bible when the demons go into the swine. You might as well leave a stranger with a brood of tigers. And the demonic is present here. They won't meddle with persons who touch nothing, he remarked, putting the bottle before me. The dogs do right to be vigilant. Take a glass of wine? No, thank you. Not bitten, are you? If I had been, I would have set my signet on the biter. Heathcliff's countenance relaxed into a grin. Hey, that's the first time he has like a happy look. Come, come, he said. You are flurried, Mr. Lockwood. Here, take a little wine. Frankly, I would have. Let's see, what did he say? Guests are so exceedingly rare in this house that I and my dogs I am willing to own hardly know how to receive him. Your health, sir. He's almost being human here. I bowed and returned the pledge, beginning to perceive that it would be foolish to sit sulking for the misbehavior of a pack of curs. Besides, I felt loath to yield the fellow further amusement at my expense, since his humor took that turn. Yeah, he was happy at someone else's expense. He, probably swayed by prudential considerations of the folly of offending a good tenant, relaxed a little in the laconic style of chipping off his pronouns and auxiliary verbs, and introduced what he supposed would be a subject of interest to me, a discourse on the advantages and disadvantages of my present place of retirement, talking about Thrushcross Grange. I found him very intelligent. Aha, not a dummy. Very intelligent on the topics we touched. And before I went home, I was encouraged so far as to volunteer another visit tomorrow. He evidently wished no repetition of my intrusion. I shall go notwithstanding. Man, this guy is dumber than a rock. It is astonishing how sociable I feel myself compared with him. Well, that's true. But my goodness, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, maybe I shouldn't be going back to this guy. It's a bunch of weirdos with demonic dogs. It's not happy. It's not nice. He seems to be cruel, and he's not invited me. That's another thing. It's like, dude, it's like, okay, it's like, fine, the guy's here. I will be halfway human, but doesn't encourage anymore. But then again, I think with the story of him and the girl and stuff, we show somebody does not have social cues. Someone does not know how to read a room. Wow, that was fun. Now, this went on longer than I thought because I did the introduction. So, I'm not going to do chapter 2. There's so much in there. Yeah, can't you tell this is such a great love story? Wow, Heathcliff, what a guy. It's not a love story. It's a horror story. The horror of what humans can do to each other. It'll be a while before we meet Kathy, the real Kathy. There's 2 of them. Doesn't make life easier that these names are all kind of similar. I believe, though, that she separates Kathy from Catherine to help us out, like that Catherine is Kathy number 2 and Kathy is Kathy. We shall get there. We haven't even gotten close to the ghosts and everything. So there we have it. There we have it. Let me know if you're going to go see the movie. Somehow I doubt anyone in my audience would see the movie anyways. It's a bit of a chick flick, or considered a chick flick. I would argue it's not, but I get it. I get it why dudes in general were not like, Wuthering Heights, wow, I can't wait. But definitely the movie, wow. If what I'm hearing is in it, it's so bad. I mean, just really sick. So, If you know anyone that sees it, let me know. I'm waiting until the movie comes out officially. That's usually when the official plot will be officially shown, where I can see. Maybe though people that catch the early screenings will leak it on the internet. But you know what's good entertainment? We need to stick with good entertainment. That is my assertion. Go ahead and watch some of the older versions. Now, the one with Laurence Olivier, for many, many, many reasons, is also incorrect. Again, it just only does half the story, but it's Laurence Olivier, for crying out loud. And some of it they really get right. Really get right indeed. Timothy Dalton, same problem, but I think he does a great Heathcliff, and they are the correct ages. They're supposed to be teenagers, and I think them being teenagers also makes it make more sense. But in any case, definitely you have the book. Read the book if you like it, or just hang out with me as I do so. Once again, I cannot give you all a schedule because of life, but I'm so happy you all are here. So I want to give a shout out. I do have memberships now, and my members, one of them has been in the chat. It's been Salty Traveling Sea, and thank you for being here. And Prophet of the Dragon. See, this is one of the perks you get. I will give you shout outs and share your channels if you have channels. So Salty Traveling Sea, here is his channel. Also, Snortopupus Kuber, John Sue, and Deeple101. They are also members. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. And I want to give a big thank you to Tommy, and the Guinea Pig Collective. I've been reading too much 18th century or 19th century work. You are now Thomas. Thank you, Norporeal. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Much appreciated. Please go ahead and subscribe to him as well. Yeah, we did the Wheel of Time. I don't know when we're going to be able to do the next one for reasons, because he has to keep reading it. Thank you, Phil. Praise for you with metal. Yeah, and I think he has Chilporials. Yes. Give me a DM if you're interested in having me there for the Chilporial. It's been a while. I also have my other channel, Catholic Splaining. It's let me see it. Let me go ahead and put it out there, because that's where I have my Catholic content now, and lots of fun stuff, because we have a new pope, and well, it's just something of great interest to me. Lent is coming up. Let me see. Share. Let me share the link. So if this is something you are interested in, let me put it in the chat. I'm going to be continuing with the Gospel according to Matthew, but I'll be Catholic Splaining probably St. Valentine's Day. Not the love story everyone thinks it is. It's about love, but different kind of love. Alrighty. Well, once again, thank you everyone for being here. Please do watch A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Okay, listen. I know people have personal opinions about George R. R. Martin. I do. I have very strong ones. And you can see I will criticize that man left and right, but I will also be honest about him. Not that anyone else is dishonest. Yes, they are. But you got to be honest with people, even if you don't necessarily like them or like their disposition. Also, remember that the Game of Thrones TV show is not representative of his work. The best of his work are the Duncan Egg novels, and The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is probably the best stuff on television that has come out in years, definitely in fantasy. We have not seen a pure story in fantasy since forever. I also want to point out that some of the earthy stuff in there, not in the books. It's like HBO is like, fine, we'll let you be faithful to everything, but you have to throw in random things here and there, which they shouldn't. But other than that, it's a fantastic adaptation. And I cannot wait to the next one. It is about good winning. So for that matter, I'm going to end. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day. And be certain to, if you are so inclined, read Wuthering Heights.